Yeah.
Hey, welcome to Sarcasm Colored Glasses, and this is a special episode as we've got a multiverse crossover to talk about some stuff going on here. So, just to introduce, as we've opened the breach, we've got returning Eyepokes and Headchokes.
What's up?
So we got Alex and
And Alex and Kula.
And Kula. Okay, and our own Gotham Geek girl, Nadia. So, what are we all together to talk about today? So, the earth-shattering news that Michael Keaton will be returning. Well, actually, talks of Michael Keaton returning to the DC cinematic universe as reprising his role as Batman in the new Flash movie, and then going forward. So, what do you guys think about this so far?
I love it.
Pretty good fucking news. I'm with it.
It was one of the good things to hear in 2020.
One of the few, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I like the fact that they're basically going back to the past in their archives and just incorporating everything, because not to say that certain things may be wasted, but if you're going to have this universe where we know that we have the Flash, and the Flash can go back to parallel universes, he can go to the past, he can go to the future. Why not jump universes or, point in times? Why not jump those and just have him appear with somebody, have him appear with anybody, even Val Kilmer possibly. It's not.
I like Val Kilmer.
Yes.
I like Val Kilmer.
I like him too. I was actually watching
Batman
that last
Forever
night.
Is good. It's a good movie.
It's not the best one, but it's not the worst one either. So
no,
I just like the fact.
Clearly,
I just like the fact that there's options there. There's many ways to go. We talk about the idea of even Batman Beyond being a movie at one point. Like, they can play with the idea of that. So there's a ton of things they can do. That's why I like it.
Yeah, they might.
No. Go ahead, Nadia.
They might tie into Flashpoint. So if they tie into that storyline, that's just gonna open up so many freaking doors, and I'm super excited. Like, if they go with the J.F. Johns storyline, that's gonna bring Martha and Thomas Wayne. So that'll bring what's his name? Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Thomas Wayne. So if they do this, it's gonna bring in everybody, and it's just gonna open so many doors. And I think that's what I'm most excited about.
I did hear, though, that while this does, it was originally called Flashpoint, but that's going to be the main storyline of it, but that they're not going the route of Thomas Wayne.
Quick question. Yeah. I don't mean to cut you off, but why is this the thing where most people just jump straight into the Bat universe? Like, as she's saying Bruce Wayne's parents' names, I'm thinking Martha, I'm thinking of Superman's parents as well. So I'm thinking of all the different Superman movies that we got. Like, we can either...
No, because they were a major point of the Flashpoint paradox. So if they tie that in, it's going to open the whole multiverse, so we can get every single Batman. Like, we can bring back Ben. We can bring... Now they're saying we could bring in Pattinson into this universe. So, I think that's the biggest thing.
I think my problem with it... I'm excited for it, but I think my overall problem with, doing the Flashpoint, which would be great, is just that DC tends to overextend themselves in movies, and they could make a fucking mess of it easily, very easily, if you don't have the right directors. Like, when you watch, for example, perfect example, Batman vs. Superman, the theatrical version, if you watch the director's cut that has 30 extra minutes of essential fucking movie that makes it fucking a 8 out of 10, then you're missing a lot. And those things that comes down to studio, that comes down to money, that comes down to time overall. And especially where we're at with the whole COVID shit, we don't know when they're going to be able to start filming and shit. They have to start doing a lot of preparations for that. It's just, I want to see it done correctly. I'm just not sure that they have the track track record to do so. The thing is, they have been getting better since Wonder Woman. They've been getting better.
Aquaman, Shazam.
Yes.
Minus Aquaman, because he fucking hates Aquaman for some reason.
I love Aquaman. It is amazing and it's beautiful.
Oh, don't get me on Aquaman, please.
The funny thing is, we talked about this yesterday at work. I was like, so why the fuck do you hate Aquaman? And he was just like, don't. I was like, no, I really need to know why. So like, it was just, it was a pretty funny discussion. But overall, like every time he discusses fucking DC stuff, he's like, I hate Aquaman, and I'm just editing this shit. Like, I'm like,
do you hate the character or do you hate?
It was one of the rare times I left the theaters excited.
Which is actually part of why I can't stand it so much, because like I'm like, oh wow, this huge critic of like DC movies comes out saying like, oh, this is great, I love it, and then I watch it, I'm like, what is this? Like by my expectations, when I looked at it, I didn't think that it was going to be good. And then people started telling me like people were critical and said like, yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm like, okay, that's weird. And then when I'm watching it, I'm like, what? This is exactly what I thought it was going to be. So now I'm mad that people told me that it was good. Even more mad than I would have been if it was just crap and the crap I expected. But it.
To be fair, some of the people that told you that it was good, I've been told the same about other movies. And I'm like, you're lying, motherfucker. I'm like, I know who you are, and you're lying. So, but no, overall, I think it was a decent movie. It wasn't great, but I think it was a step in the right direction after Wonder Woman. Then you had Shazam, which me and Nadia both went to see that, and we spoke about this, saying that like, we blew us like out of the water, and like the cameo at the end was awesome too. With
should have been Cavill, but yeah.
I mean, and it still might be because he's possibly coming back to the fold as well. So,
well, they didn't show his face, so who knows?
No, it didn't. But at the same time, like, if you read some news, I read some news like about a week ago saying that he's like, he never really actually quit. So like, he just stepped away from it for like.
And I think that's also something where it's if you have a certain amount of appearances in your contract, that doesn't count as one because it's not his body, it's not him, it's not his face. They don't show him, so it's a cheat code.
Yeah, it's like a fake Easter egg.
Yeah.
The just getting back to just this news of Michael Keaton coming into this world, and I know like because of their track record with DC movies, you're kind of like, I don't know. But one thing that from the Arrowverse where they did Crisis on Infinite Earths, which I think kind of spawned this idea that something like this can happen, is and can happen, right? Because like, and I've got it right here, Infinite Crisis, the actual comic, and watching it in like the Arrowverse and how they worked everything into it. They worked Pariah into it, and they worked the Monitor, Anti-Monitor, and all those things that, like even if you're watching it, it's like, okay, this seems kind of cheesy. Like if you're actually reading comics, like this is straight out of there. But they did a great job at bringing all these different worlds. Like they brought in Titans, they brought in the Flash from the movieverse meeting the TV Flash. So like, and that kind of.
You see, I don't know a lot of this shit going on.
I didn't know that either.
I didn't know that they were crossing like. Not to, crossing streams, but like I didn't know that they were doing that type of shit, like actually pulling shit from the movies. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the thing that made this so exciting is like, and I think this all comes from that. And if anybody hasn't watched the Infinite Crisis series of Crisis on Infinite Earths, like just it's on Netflix on all those things. Just even if you don't watch like all those things, just watch those 5 episodes. It's amazing.
So it's just 5 episodes overall?
Well,
yeah.
But what shows are they actually on? Are they on all of the DC shows? Because I would assume they're on Arrow and Flash and what else?
It was Arrow, Flash, Black Lightning, which was the first time this year.
Okay.
Supergirl, and I think it was Legends. Legends might have had an episode in there too. Yeah, I think that they did.
So that's still a thing? Yeah. I'm just unaware. I haven't.
I gave up on CW.
I gave up a long time ago.
Yeah, I gave up.
Especially like on the Arrow thing, because I'm just like,
I loved Arrow.
Once the whole Ra's al Ghul storyline kind of like finished, and like with the whole like what's it called, the Resurrection Pit or whatever the fuck it's called,
Lazarus.
The Lazarus Pit. There you go.
Yeah.
Like after that whole season, and I was like,
that's
this
like
ended
season
perfectly.
3,
season 4 or 5 actually, but like
that's 4.
Yeah, like I was just like, I think it's the good place to stop, and then it kept going. I was just like, no, you should have stopped right there because like
everybody died, everybody came back,
Exactly.
everybody became a hero.
Yeah.
Like,
But if it, and I totally get it, but like, I mean, going through as somebody that's, DC Comics, that's what they do all the time, in the comics,
Oh yeah,
that's,
everybody dies and revives all the time.
yeah.
You have to
So,
That's the good thing about the Lazarus pit.
You have a
Yeah.
cheat code essentially.
Yeah.
So, like just restart. It's just like, okay, just throw them in the Lazarus pit. One question I had about this: how will this differ from something like X-Men Futures Past or whatever it's called, the movie Days of Future Past? Yeah, how would this differ? Because I know they're gonna not pull directly from it, but like they did something similar with that and with the X-Men. Like, how would you like to see this done properly with like Keaton being in it? Like, what's gonna be his role overall, or like, because it's kind of the same. You know what I mean?
68
like
now.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So is he gonna be? Is he gonna be Bruce Wayne, Batman Inc., the old one, like in a wheelchair, or is he gonna be like it's what's it gonna be? Is he gonna be the one that's teaching Terry? Batman Beyond, you could bring that shit in. Like,
I read rumors he's gonna be in a Batgirl movie, I think. But
Yes.
I would rather see Batman Beyond, honestly.
So the way that they're like, what I've been reading about it is that they're kind of going to have him sort of as not just a Flash movie, but kind of like a Nick Fury character, the way he was in Avengers, is dropping him in here, dropping him in there. He's supposed to be like the older advisor, which, works into like with Flash, who's technically a new Flash, because he has powers for too long, and then the Batgirl movie, but also like going forward and stuff like that. He's just kind of like, he's the guy in a chair teaching everybody and stuff like that. And just if they're going off the way that they have in the Arrowverse, is like, you open breaches, because basically what they did in Infinite Crisis is like every DC thing that they've done anywhere is basically another world. Like, this is Earth 1, this is Earth 5, this is Earth 25. They brought Lucifer in. It was like Earth 69. So
yeah. Sorry.
So
did they bring in Constantine too?
Yes, they did.
Constantine,
Constantine
is actually in Legends. Yeah, Constantine, the series by itself, it was kind of like Supernatural in the beginning, which I liked.
I liked it.
Yeah, I loved it.
They should have moved it from NBC to CW. I would have kept watching that shit.
Yeah, he's in Legends now, and it's kind of the same character, but it has a different feel because Legends is kind of the funny one of everything.
But is it the same actor from the show though too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. But
he was also in Arrow too. They originally introduced him into Arrow when I think he was resurrecting somebody or something like that. He was in the Damien Dark storyline.
Yeah,
they brought magic to it. So, but like I think that they. Yeah. So the Tim Burton Batman could be another Earth. So basically, Barry could open a breach or however they do it and bring him through it, and then he can be on Earth Prime, and then they could work through like that. So it's actually the way they brought from Infinite Crisis, they really made this something that's like it's natural, and they made it fluid through it. So that's why I'm super excited about this, even though he wasn't even my favorite Batman. But the fact that just bringing everything all as one cohesive unit, which is something that they've had such a hard time doing with so many different directors, so many different versions. We've got 100 different versions of Batman and a Joker and all this stuff. But since they've just put this as these are different worlds, different Earths, it can all just be one. So you have a real universe, even more so than you have.
Is Adam West still around?
Nah, I don't think so. That would have been dope.
But Burt Ward, who was Robin in the original, he did a cameo in Crisis too.
And Kevin Conroy.
Yes, Kevin Conroy.
Repellent spray or not?
It was super. His part was super quick.
Oh, okay.
But I wouldn't be surprised if he had it in his pocket. But you never know. But I think that's something that makes this such an amazing and exciting thing, is the worries that we would have normally had about doing something this big. It's saying that okay, they can do this and they can do this right. So they've explained.
So you think overall that it's doable without being majorly fucked up?
Yeah, I definitely.
It could either be like a huge bomb, or a huge success and a segue into a million other things.
Because like the thing is like when not to keep bringing up Marvel, but like when you see the success they've had, the way they plan shit going forward, like obviously we've always talked about We've always talked about how DC needs to do the same thing, like somewhat sort of plan things going forward. Like they just look like they were mishmashing shit at the same time, like literally writing shit as they're talking. But now they kind of look like with this whole thing that they have a plan because they did the Crisis on Infinite Earths for a reason to be able to introduce everybody into the same. So technically, the shows are part of the DCEU now too, like in like actual like legit.
Yes.
Because they were always, but they were just always like somewhat segmented. But now that the fact that they brought everything in, like. That's cool. So, like, who do you want to see in this movie or in Flashpoint? Who do you want to see be, like, the main villain and shit? Like, what?
Yeah.
Where? That's where I think you have the biggest issue. Because, like, you could pick from so many. Because, honestly speaking, it can't be the Joker because it's a Flash movie. So, it has to be something maybe Flash-oriented.
It should be, at least.
It has to. I think it should be. Yeah. Or at least have, like, an overarching, like, if you're going to have the villain that's like directly the Flash's villain, you might have to have like an overarching nemesis in the background, kind of like they did with Avengers with Thanos. You might maybe have Darkseid somewhere just lurking in the back, just a quick cameo or something. What do you think?
Well, I think probably the most sensible villain would be the Reverse Flash.
Reverse Flash, yeah.
You know, I mean, he's been the villain in the animated movies. He's been in the overall thing through the Flash series, and he's pretty much the greatest nemesis of it. And he's also very high on the time travel and everything. And if they do bring in the thing from Batman Superman where he's popping in through there, through the breach, through the
which they
fantasy
have to.
They wanted to do. Yeah, at least to make sense of that. Then, you know, I think, you know, I mean, the Reverse Flash is the one that kind of taught him how to do that. So I think that would kind of make a lot of sense and really be like a huge thing. But even in Flashpoint, he was, you know, the main protagonist against that, you know. And then if you're this whole thing of the Snyder Cut, which should be released by then, you know, it's supposed to be Darkseid supposed to be in it. So he could be that overarching thing.
So Steppenwolf isn't really like the actual big bad shit. It's supposed to be, because that's what I was thinking. I'm like, you should have had Darkseid in it. Where the fuck is Darkseid? Because they mentioned his name.
Yes, they said for Darkseid.
Exactly, but they didn't show. And I'm just like, all right, you dropped the name, you dropped the Thanos name, just like you would like with Darkseid and everything. Like, you dropped the equivalent. Where the fuck is he? And I just hope it's better when it comes out. Because again, I'm leaning towards a point where the Justice League, not to bring it over to that movie, but the Justice League, like the Snyder Cut, would be better. I'm inclined to believe it because the Batman vs. Superman was way better with those extra 30 minutes.
Yeah,
so
definitely was. If the studio stopped meddling.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said if the studio stopped meddling, they can make great movies.
Yeah, but it's also no one real, like, we haven't had a 3-hour movie in quite some time, so they don't know how people would actually react to that.
I call bullshit because Lord of the Ring movies. Longer. The fucking, what's it called? The Hobbit movies. The 3-hour movies.
Lord of the Rings, those are all 3 hours.
Exactly.
And
the
those
Matrix
are
movies are close to 3 hours. Fucking Harry Potter movies are about almost 3 hours each. Like,
wasn't Goodfellas 3 hours?
Like, that's a whole different decade. yes, they
but no, even that, the fucking the one on Netflix that just came out with De Niro, Pacino, like that shit was like fucking the newer one, the Irishman. That shit was like 4 hours. Yeah. And I still watch it. So I'm like, if I could watch a 3-hour movie. I seen Titanic when I was like fucking 9. Like I'm okay with it. Like me and Nadia sat through the day watching the Dark Knight.
The entire day, the whole
Center.
Nolan.
Like the whole thing. So like, yeah,
it's all about managing the time.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like if you're telling
me, some people are gonna have, like, I think it has more replay value if it is 3 hours long, because I can watch a lot of those movies that you just named over and over, especially if it has the right director. Like I'm a Scorsese guy. I like The Departed. I like Casino. I like Goodfellas. 3 hour or 2.5 plus time limit. So I can watch those over and over. And even if I'm doing something and something else happens where I have to go, I look forward to finish watching that movie. So I agree with you guys. Like, 3 hours for this type of movie makes sense because it's so many storylines and there's so many characters. It makes sense, and I'm actually for it. I just hear studios making a lot of excuses.
It also, they're talked about too, it might even be a miniseries. So like they might break it up into like, 4 different episodes rather than one 6-hour movie or something like that. So, it depends.
Perfectly fine with that. If you do 2-hour cuts and you have 6 hours of movie, do 2-hour cuts and release it in a series, I'm fine with that. Because you had Iron Man 1, 2, and 3. You had all these movies that led up to this one ultimate movie or 2 ultimate movies. Like, so let them do what they got to do. Like, stop putting the handcuffs on them. Like, let them be free. Like, I'm sure if they would have just released fucking not Justice League, the Batman vs Superman as it was without the theatrical cut, like, it would have gotten so much more money, so much better reviews. Like, and
also
just do it, man.
Yeah, they gotta stop trying to keep up with Marvel. Like, I'd rather wait forever for like
I don't mind waiting for a good movie.
Yeah.
Like, my thing is, and I've always said this, like, why is it that the DC animated movies are so much better? It's because they're given free reign to do it. And it's mainly because it's animated, and yes, shit costs money when you add CGI and this and that. Like, but if you want a good product, spend the money on the good product.
That's all you have to do.
It's that simple. Like, if you know it's gonna bang, you got a director that can produce good movies, which he has. Like, just let them fucking do it, man. Like,
I always said the Justice League. I mean, not Justice League. The Suicide Squad movie should have been Assault on Arkham. Like, that would have been the perfect reason to bring in Batman. Perfect reason to bring in Joker. Like,
why?
I heard Suicide Squad was trash.
Oh yes, Nadia.
No,
it's not trash.
No.
I didn't hate it, but it wasn't good.
I couldn't get past the first 20 minutes. I legit couldn't. I tried 3 different times, and I was just like,
I didn't hate it. The cast was good. It's always the script and the director.
The pacing too.
The pacing,
Pacing and the build-up was
they
not.
They rushed the movies.
But the Harley Quinn movie, that shit hit immediately. Like, I was watching it, I was enjoying the shit out of it. I was like, this is awesome. This is
Harley?
Deadpool, but with Harley, like, straight up. And it was so much fun to watch.
If they didn't advertise it as Birds of Prey, if it was just straight, like, as a Harley movie, it would have blown
it should have been the emancipation of Harley Quinn. That was the title.
Yeah,
that was it. And then you bring in the Birds of Prey, like, during the movie, and it, like, it leads to the Birds of Prey movie. You know what I mean? Not like actually.
Did you like it, Jay?
You know what? I did like it. I didn't expect to, but I did feel. Yeah, I felt like it was more of a. It really was a Birds of Prey movie that had Harley in it, like as an undercurrent. I felt like it could have been 2 separate things. Like they could have done Harley breaking away, and they could have had a Birds of Prey origin movie. While I think like I think that's what it was, though. Is what people got. It was
they matched it together. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, it was just an interpretation of the situation based on Harley Quinn. It was Harley Quinn's interpretation of Birds of Prey.
We got a screenwriter here.
Give her a movie though, like that was how
I can't help it. I'm a writer.
He's a screenwriter, so like
Birds of Prey. There's nothing Birds of Prey about it. And then like when I saw it, I was like, oh, this movie is freaking awesome. Like actually really liked it.
Like, I felt with her with that bacon, egg, and cheese, the hot sauce. I was like,
oh my god!
That in the beginning, I was like,
it was over.
I'd be pissed as fuck too, like, cause that shit looked mad good.
But it was that part and the way that it was carried on and directed was very Deadpool, like it had that fourth wall feeling about it. And I think the people that did like it really didn't have that interpretation of it. Because if you just go and just watch and really not thinking about that, then you're like, okay, I don't know how to take this movie. But I think it's one of those things where you just have the right context into it, and then and then it's much more enjoyable. Same thing with Suicide Squad though, because while it wasn't really like Nadia, I didn't love it, but it wasn't, it wasn't bad. It was, I've seen so much worse movies.
Exactly.
And I'll give it a shot today. I'll load it up today and I'll watch it on HBO Max.
Yeah, start 20 minutes into it.
But it's the same thing as Batman and Superman because they ended up releasing something that had like 20 minutes more to it. And like they had more Joker Harley scenes. They had, even like they had more walking scenes where, like the problem with it was that it cut too fast. Like, they're in the plane, then they're over here. And you're like, what happened? It just felt like it was going too fast and they weren't explaining. But then they added those walking scenes where like, Harley's talking to them and they're having like banter. And it's like, more enjoyable. It's still like Nadia said, the animated version was way better if they just took that story and rolled with it. I think that would have been incredible movie. While this was still like, it was good, and I feel like the chemistry between Deadshot and Harley kind of ruled the movie and saved it.
They were great.
Yeah.
I think they gave it a 6.5 or a 7. I can't remember when I rated it. But
I have to ask, do you think the reason they don't take their animated movies and pretty much make them what's it called, live action is because it'll be directly competing with their own fucking awesome animated movies? Because like I have yet to see anything like Justice League Doom where Batman just says fuck all of y'all pretty much, like, and it's just one of the the Red Hood that should have been a standalone, like straight up theatrical release. I will always say that. The first time I saw that, I was like we need this type of shit, like after, and that's the type of shit we needed in theaters after The Dark Knight, because it kind of follows that somewhat murky pattern and dark trend with Batman, especially because it's Gotham City, and like if you've been to Chicago and you look at the places where they film shit there and where they film shit here, it's just like, yo, like they captured it perfectly. So when you see stuff like that, like, is it because they don't want to compete with their own animated division?
I never looked at it that way.
I feel like, they are two different things. And personally, I wouldn't not watch the animated if I saw the live action one too. I would kind of like to see them both, because you're always going to be able to do things. There's more license in the animated ones, and the animated ones can be closer to the comics. I've mentioned this before about like, the transference of comics to live action with, like saying with Batman Begins, because they make it relatable and real. So you kind of feel like, like when I'm watching the Nolan trilogy, you feel like this is a Batman. This is a world that could actually happen in our world. It doesn't feel so lofty as, maybe the first Spider-Man, where things were a lot more comic booky, where they just took the comics and brought it into live action. It kind of grounded it a lot more. So I feel like you can do an animated one where it's straight out of the comics, doing all crazy comic stuff, and then translate maybe that same idea into a live action movie. While it's, a grounded version of that. And they could still be two different things and enjoy them both ways. Yeah.
For me, I think it's more of the fact that they want to just keep building more and more content, because they have the app now, which had to be in plans for quite some time. And plus, they also have like a ton of just TV shows, animated TV shows as well, that are great. Like
the Harley Quinn one is funny as shit. Like
I haven't watched
it, but it's funny as shit. Like
I can't. I've tried. I'm gonna get back to it, but like my first couple of episodes, I was like, ugh.
Like the funny thing is, you say that, but what I was watching in the Harley Quinn movie, that was a live action of the show. To me, that's what I felt like, and I was like, oh, I like.
Okay.
This. Continue with your point, though. Sorry for.
Well, I don't think it's to compete with themselves, but I think it kind of is, but not in the same way, because they have they have an app with a whole bunch of stuff, not just the visual things as far as live action or animated. They also have the comic books on there as well. But I'm really big into the Young Justice animated show right now, and it's really amazing what they're doing with that. I would love to see more of that in any form. Like they have the movies are pretty good as well, but if they had the live action movies, that like I would be completely sold just to see it. But I don't think that they're there to just compete with themselves. I think they just want to have I guess it is to actually compete with themselves, because they have so much content. We're comparing them to Marvel, but I don't think they're doing much of that. I think maybe that one avenue of actual live action movies might be they might be competing with Marvel. But everywhere else, I don't think they are. I think they're like further.
I think they realize they're their own thing at this point. Like, they stopped trying to be the MCU. Like, let's just do this. And that's why they started
do things their own way.
Crisis on Infinite Earth, and like they were just like, because if we try to catch up now, we're never going to catch up. It's literally like we got to create something different in order to like have it appeal to everybody that's read our comics, that's seen our shows, that's seen our cartoon TV shows, our cartoon movies. Like, so I think it's a better way of doing things, obviously, because like that way you could literally pull from anywhere. Like you said, like you could pull from any Earth 1 through infinity, whatever. Like it's easier for them to do. And I would like to see the Red Hood pop up randomly, or like, you know,
that would be amazing.
That would be awesome. Or, you know, like, I would love to see Damien pop up and like talk shit.
Oh my god, yes,
like, that would be hilarious.
Yeah.
If Batman, like, if let's just say if you were to bring back for some reason Christian Bale and then he meets Damien, that would be the funniest shit ever to me. Like, I'll be like, and you know, and he's just as snarky, just as much of an asshole, and like it'll be hilarious to me to see how a Christian Bale Batman would deal with that.
You've also like
continue. Go ahead.
Oh, like I mean, they've even like in their cinematic where they've hinted at, you know, Jason Todd or a Robin that previously died.
Yeah.
In I think it was the Batman Superman where you show like the old Robin costume where it's like Joker
says,
yeah. So, you know, like that opens the door to like maybe Jason Todd is out there being the Red Hood. You know, you never know. All these doors open because they really like kind of combine everything all together. It's, you know, I feel like, you know, we've always been comparing them to Marvel because Marvel, they set out that plan. They did like, you know, and they followed it through. They've got their phase 1 through 4. And I think we're maybe on 5 coming up. And, you know, they've executed all of that so well that, you know, that's how we've always been judging them. But if you think about it, like all the things that we've been talked about with, you know, DC, you know, they've got the animated movies, they've got the series, they've got the animated cartoons. And on top of the widespread, you know, even like live action shows like Gotham, that plus all the different movies, they're actually like, you know, and the fact that because of Crisis, this is all one thing. You could argue even that they've done a better job at Marvel at creating a universe because they basically sold off no matter anything that they've done, it could be underneath one house.
That's true. Yeah, when you put it that way. I guess that makes sense because, like you said, they have everything in different avenues. Like they have TV shows, they have cartoons, they have TV, they have animated movies, they have other shows, they have their own network shows, Titans. And when you look at something like, and not to bring up the MCU again, but the MCU, they did it with S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of, and it worked.
They tried,
but not to the extent that like CW was just like, oh, not CW, but DC and CW were like, all right, let's make this shit legit. If Smallville would have came out around the same time as the Arrowverse, like
over,
that shit was, and like when you think about it, it's far ahead of its time because
they just used the wrong character to spin off.
But they in Crisis they brought Smallville in too.
Oh, they did.
They brought Tom Welling.
Yeah. Yes.
I did not know that. Okay.
I didn't know that.
Oh, it was. I'm telling you guys, you have to watch it. It was so epic.
Okay.
Because
I don't like Batwoman. I couldn't get into Batwoman. So.
I don't know anyone who does.
She got fucking axed. She's out.
Yeah, I was like, I'll watch it now.
She quit.
I tried, but I can't do this.
It was an acquired taste. I mean, I did like it. Let's say I enjoyed it, but you know, not at the same way that it did others. But then it's funny because then I watched the original like first seasons of other things, you know, and I'm like, okay, the first season of Supergirl, terrible. But
right
right
now, CBS, that's why it was trash.
Yeah, but like season 3, and I'm like, it's one of my favorite CW shows.
Really?
You know. Yeah, so it's like, I mean,
season 3 is usually when the show picks up steam, especially when it's like they have to introduce a whole bunch of characters, and that's what they did with a lot of season 1 of pretty much all the shows: Arrow, Flash, and Supergirl. So
Arrow season 1 was my favorite.
Yeah, like, the first 2 seasons of Arrow,
he was killing motherfuckers. I was like,
missed an episode.
I was like, he's killing people. On CW, they're letting that happen. I was like, let's watch this shit. They're getting real.
It was backwards from other ones because, like, I mean, the first season of Flash wasn't even all that great. It was, you know, it was good for the time, but like season 1 to like 2, 3, and 4 is like so much more amazing. It was like the hint of things. So like I'm trying not to be too quick to judge Batwoman, but they're also going to have a different Batwoman coming in the next one. So who knows how that's going to go? But it's.
I mean, one season is kind of tough. It's kind of tough to judge something off of just one season, because it could be a myriad of things. It could be the director, it could be the studio, it could be the actors,
the writing.
Like it could just like they're still finding their feet, and like because when you look at something like Arrow, that like season 1 was a go immediately, and like everything just worked properly the way it was written and everything. You kind of think that, okay, everything else is going to be the same. But like when you look at Supergirl, it was on CBS. It was cheesy. It was corny. I watched the first episode. I was like, done. I was like, I'm not watching this shit. And then when they said, they said they canceled it, but then CW picked it up. And then there was all the shit like, it's CW. Now I've heard from multiple people that it's really good. It's actually one of the better ones. So I was just like, I bet. Flash, I've never seen. And it's mainly because like I seen him come through and help him in Arrow. In that last season that I saw with Ra's al Ghul and shit. But besides that, I didn't watch it because I watched the one episode. I watched like 15 minutes of it, and like I was just like, "You're not the Flash to me." I was like, "You might be, but like you might grow into it, which he probably has." But like for me, like I just don't know. Like when I saw him, I was like, "You're not the quirky, quick like." Super like he's kind of a jerk too, the Flash. So like at
first it was like very broody because Arrow is very, very sad and broody like now. So it was trying to incorporate that, and then it got a lot lighter. A lot lighter, more comedy, more timing. The timing is there. It's just not season 1, but it's
balanced too. It's got a lot
more quirky
stuff, but it's also very dark in certain points. But Flash is very close to the comics too. Like they were the first to really bring in a lot of these comic ideals. Like Crisis started. The first episode of the Flash, I think, was when they had a newspaper where they said Flash disappears in Crisis. And as somebody that's read the comic, it's like, oh my God, this is like kind of like in Marvel, like when, Tony Stark mentioned something about like, superheroes, about them needing to get controlled and regulated. Then I'm like, in my head, I'm like Civil War. Oh my God. And, and that was like in the first Avengers, how far along did they get to Captain America 3 where they were doing that? And so it's like Flash was the same way. It's like, it started through that Hinton, which gave you that as a viewer, as somebody who knows this stuff, it's like they've got a plan. And, 3 seasons down the road, this is where we're going to. And when they started doing the crossovers, building first just Arrow and Flash, and then Arrow, Flash, and Supergirl, and then everything, and now we've got Black Lightning and Legends and everything into it. And it's funny because like I think one of the ones with Crisis on Earth X was where they had like the Nazi world where they had the Ray and everything. And it's funny, I know Alex is like raising his eyebrow.
It sounds interesting. Like I'm just like, oh shit, they had Nazis, but
yeah, it was like, Supergirl.
There's a thing where Batman's like fighting a Nazi. I remember seeing it somewhere like on a comic book. I forgot where it was, but it was just like.
And then there's the Superman. What was that one?
The
Red Sun?
Yes. Well, they did Red Daughter in Supergirl, where they had like a clone, basically a clone of her that was basically taken by the Russians, and she was all this. I mean, I could go on and on about these things. But the one amazing thing is that they've, they showed that they had a plan, like it just planting the seed in it, and so, and it really brings us as the viewer, like, even though you're in the first season and like everything's kind of like, feels kind of cheesy or crappy and stuff, it's saying that all the way down the line, you get down to the last page of the book and you're like, oh my God, all this, like I was saying with the Crisis Act on Earth X, they had, you had like all these things. Once they brought in the Legends, you've got like 5 people from here, you've got 3 people from, because you've got Team Flash, you've got Team Arrow. It's not just like Arrow and Flash and a couple of Legends. It's like their own team. as the seasons have gone through, they keep adding people. They, Arrow added Arsenal. Then they started, they've got like Ragman and all these random people. And, then when you do a crossover, you've got basically 30 people on this side versus 30 people on that side. And you're like, holy cow, so much is going on. And then you got like this big fight going on. And so it's amazing, and it's all this stuff that they're basically saying, this is okay to do. This is the world we're leading to.
I mean, technically, if they did world building through the shows, that's something that obviously MCU didn't have. So, like, if they're just like, hey, we have these shows that's world built through the shows to be able to actually get to Flashpoint, then, hey, it's a good idea.
I feel like all Marvel, I mean, we're getting too into Marvel, but I was going to say, I feel like all Marvel did was, like, fake mentions or, like, they had things they weren't allowed to say because of contracts with Sony and Fox. So it was like they couldn't say mutants. What did they say? Mystical, like some weird stuff. Like they weren't allowed to say mutants. Yeah. And then like in the Marvel TV shows, they would say the incident. So it's like they had little tie-ins, but it wasn't a complete build-up. This sounds like it could be a real.
I think like the most was in basically Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was the only one that did. Mm-hmm. It was a series that was connected to it. And it's funny because once they Avengers hit the point where the snap happened, that's when Agents diverted from it. It's like they, in the storyline, they ended up going into the future for something. And then they went back, but then it was like a different timeline. So they never addressed the snap in Agents, which was, kind of like a cop-out, I feel. But that's also where the show stopped being really, interesting. And
that's like parallel universe mentioned, I guess.
So I feel this is where like I feel that that Marvel doesn't do as much of a good job as we kind of like give them credit for, at least as far as world building. Like,
there's a shitload of loopholes everywhere. We know that. Yeah. Absolutely.
Like all their different shows, and like even their animated shows really aren't all that good. They're mostly.
I don't know the last Marvel animated I watched, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. But we're talking about things like Young Justice and Titans and things being so amazing. But like Marvel really they didn't do as well with those things. Their original animated movies like Iron Man and Doctor Strange were great. Actually, that's a good example. The Doctor Strange movie that's animated kind of was more or less the same than they did in the cinematic one. And they were both good. They were both different, so like neither one cannibalized the other one. So,
I think with Marvel, I think they just like Nadia said, they just name drop things. Mm-hmm. So it's not the worst, but with the TV shows that DC has, they name drop stuff, and they're more Easter eggs that they're saying, hey, we're definitely going to come back to this. They have it is more world building in that sense, which is the better case. Like we would rather see that. We would rather have a mention and something that same mention come back and just we get to see that. If you're going to mention Deathstroke, we get to see Deathstroke. Like I love the fact that happened in season 1 of Arrow. So and even naming. Or not even naming Zoom, but mentioning Zoom as well for Flash. Like we get to see those characters.
Yeah, we want more. We don't want to just like say like, oh, I'm acknowledging that this other world happened, the incident, but like we want to actually see the cameos popping in there, and it's something that seems weird to us at first, having a movie clash with a show, but like in Crisis on Infinite Earths, when you saw the movie Flash meeting the TV Flash and having a conversation, your mind is blown. And you're like, holy crap, what is going on here? And like, you're doing this? Are you really doing this? I didn't think you could do this. And DC said like, yeah, we can do this, and to our original topic of like, the Michael Keaton Batman coming in, any kind of worries are just really washed away because they say that like no, like you would normally say you couldn't do something like this, bring this movie from like 30 years ago and introduce this character to stuff that we're doing now. And basically they're saying like, yeah, we proved we can do this and it's fine. Bring like Smallville scene, like whoever would have thought that Smallville would that Tom Welling character be introduced into a show that we're watching now, and as the same world. So I think it's great what they're doing. I'm super, super excited.
It is exciting.
I have a question. What Batman do we not want to see in
George
the
Clooney.
DCEU?
But I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind,
like,
honestly. If he said, "Yeah, fuck it, I'll do it." At this,
just
like,
Clooney, though.
You know what? He could be the fucking Terry's like Batman. Like he could be Terry's Batman or something. Because like, yeah, you could use
Old Man Bruce, really?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Keaton would make the most sense. Keaton would make the most sense, but like, I don't know, like just to give him a quick cameo, like it would. It's
the same type of character, honestly.
But he has to have the same bat suit, because if you don't have the bat suit with the nipples coming out, like I don't want it. I don't want it.
Just have it in the.
They gotta use that same ass corny fucking thing where they show the ass and he's putting in. They show the crotch shot and everything.
Yeah.
They have to do everything and have him in it.
No, they don't need to have
They have to. It'll be fun.
Not suit up though.
I have the worst image in my head. Oh. I was trying to forget all of that.
Or if he goes to suit up and it just doesn't fit, and he's like, "Ah, shit," and like, you know, he's
this
like,
is why I told you guys.
This is why I quit.
I would like to see that collection, like maybe the villains as well, because we're talking about all of
bring in Jim Carrey seriously. Like a serious Jim Carrey Riddler. That'd be dope.
That could be a good point, though. Like, it was very different times then.
It was.
Yeah.
Like,
because I promise you, if Christopher Nolan had cast the Riddler and used Jim Carrey, completely different, you'd have been like, that's the shit.
Yeah, I could see
that's
that.
The shit. Because everybody was just like, oh, you know, like when they casted Bane with Tom Hardy, I was like, oh, no. I was like, yeah, I haven't seen Bronson. So people like, y'all need to watch Bronson, y'all need to watch Warrior, and then y'all make a decision. Of course, the voice thing, that's a whole another thing. I'm fine with it, but like I just think he did a great job. And I think people just, if you bring back Jim Carrey in a more serious tone, I think you get gold.
You know what it is? It's also certain cartoon elements that we expect. We expect to see big, huge Bane. We expect to see certain things, and certain things don't really matter. We don't always need to have the person that looks exactly like the real person in the biography, in the in a biopic, actually. But sometimes we do need to see it in the like comparison to a comic book, but sometimes it's not necessary. We didn't need to see. We got the Bane that we needed. We didn't need to see super wrestler luchador Bane.
That'd have been dope too.
He fit with the Nolan verse though, like back to what you were saying about it being realistic. He fit in that world.
Yes, he did.
He didn't necessarily bother.
He was technically a terrorist. Like
exactly.
What he was, and it was what it was at that point. So
it's just skepticism when we first hear something. What we want, what we don't want, how we see it, how we don't see it. But it matched. It matched. Yeah. At least that's how we all feel.
It's all perception, you know. It's like if we get our mind on how we're going to perceive this thing, you know, if we're going to accept it or not, then you know, that's how we take it and how we feel about it once it's actually in there. So, you know, like, you know, Batfleck, I really was super against that in the beginning, and then when you end up watching it, it's like, oh, I actually like it. I hate saying that I like this.
I was the same. I was like,
I liked Affleck. I wasn't.
I saw it and I was like, you're my Batman.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure at first, but like when you watch it, you're just like, all right, that's straight up. What's this guy's what's the art of the comic? Oh my god,
Jim Lee?
Not Jim Lee, the other one.
Miller.
I was like, you're Miller's Batman, straight up, bro.
Yeah.
I was like, and that's my favorite Batman, like the dark, broody, like angry fucking Batman. Like that's my Batman. So when I saw him like straight killing motherfuckers in the movie, I was like, all right.
But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful for this, you know, and I'm looking forward to it. And, you know, even though we're just in talks, just the idea that both sides seem like they're interested, because it's not like, you know, it's like, oh, we're trying to get him, but he's struggling. It's like he's saying, yeah, I want to do this. And they're like, yeah, we want him. So it's really just them kind of working out how it's going to work. So I think that's super exciting. So it's more than just like, oh yeah, we're just talking about a rumor or possibility. You know, this seems a little bit more concrete, which is, you know, like worth talking about this. So I think that looking forward to it. And I hope that we get something real concrete on this. And
I just don't want to get Jack Nicholson's Joker. I just don't want that.
Really?
It wasn't bad, bro. You don't hate on
No,
that
I'm
Joker.
talking about today. Old Jack Nicholson's Joker. Nah.
It was good for the time, like, and at the time he ended up stealing the movie, but what we expect of Joker right now is like, from the Heath Ledger.
We can't get a Heath Ledger one now, so
I want Heath. I wish we could have Heath because I have unpopular opinion. Joaquin is my least favorite Joker.
Really?
I had this fucking argument with her directly after the movie. And
I mean, I like Jared Leto. I want to see more of Jared Leto. So that's my hot take.
I tolerate Jared Leto. I don't know if I want to see more of him, but I definitely tolerate him. it's a different aspect of him.
Yeah, it is a very different aspect. But we just didn't get enough, at least to me. I didn't get enough to
I
judge.
don't think he was given enough. Yeah, I think that was a main issue.
He wasn't given a fair shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not to say that it's bad, but, it wasn't really executed as well as it could have been. It was just he was a cameo character.
Yeah.
So, and it was something that was so different from what we expect and are used to that, we're super quick to judge. So, which is, going back to what we're talking about adding into a movie, like, with directors meddling in and everything like that, it's like with the added in 20 minutes of Suicide Squad, you had more Joker Harley scenes in there, which were cut out of it, and which, probably made you feel a little bit better about both characters. And so if you think about actually giving more time to that, maybe more people would have accepted the grill Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
If you have no context behind a lot of things, then what do you
I think we got 15 minutes of Joker and Jared Leto Joker and like theatrical releases, and maybe about like a half an hour in cuts. So yeah, it's not much to judge.
Yeah, no, it's totally not, and
it's not fair. And he was campaigning like hell.
Yeah, I felt bad. It wasn't the actors; it was the movie.
Yeah,
it's a studio at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's definitely the studio. That's cut that. We don't need this. We don't need that. Same thing
with Ben and Cavill. Like they did them dirty. It's like they are Superman and Batman.
Mm-hmm. But we tend to judge the actor because that's the face that you see. Like I'm just doing what they're telling me to do and how they're telling me to do it.
Yeah, I'm just working, bro. That's what it is. I'm just doing my job.
This is the fun part for me. I get to act.
I always feel bad when they blame the actors because most of the time it's not even their fault.
Yeah, they're the customer service guy that you're yelling at on the phone for a bad policy. I'm just answering the phones. I'm telling them what they're telling me to do. They're like, don't yell at me. Yell at corporate.
That's definitely true. I'm taking that one.
Like, this is off topic, but on topic. But that same whatever, I don't know what the word is, but what we're talking about could be applied to in Marvel with the Wolverine movie. How terrible it was, but look how amazing Deadpool is.
Which Wolverine movie you talking about?
Was it 2?
It was I think Wolverine Origin.
She's talking about
they destroyed Deadpool, they destroyed Emma Frost, they destroyed Gambit, but like I like the Gambit actor.
Oh, the first one.
Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. Look how amazing Deadpool is now. So it's like you can't always just blame the actor for a shitty movie.
And they made fun of it on top of that in the Deadpool movie. When he saw the old Deadpool one, he's like, oh look. And he's just right there
I love that they did that too.
Yep.
Yeah. So, give justice for that.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Wolverine 1 was bad. Like it incorporated everything, but it just killed everyone off. It's like, come on, give us hope they killed off the best mutant, honestly.
Which one?
The first one. They killed off Gambit, they killed off Deadpool. Did they kill off Sabretooth? No.
I don't think he was dead, but the funny thing about that is like they took the origin comic and like, okay, we finally have an origin for Wolverine, and they incorporated it into the X-Men movie verse, but then they screwed everything else up afterwards. It's like, okay, here's the idea, and then we're just going to write a bunch of silly stuff in there, or we're going to grab things from the comics and blend them together in a poor way rather than just carrying a cohesive storyline with it, and that's what we get. But to Nadia's point, they in Deadpool they completely renovated that whole idea of it, and of the characters and everything like that. So, and then Logan also giving us the Wolverine that we wanted. So like I mean we had counted him out from the solo movies. And here we are. We get this character that, like, okay, that's Wolverine. So like
superhero movies. Period. That was just like,
that was amazing.
That was
It's something with just the X-Men Marvel collection. There's something wrong there in that whole collection, but they fixed it further along the way, though. In certain movies,
they you know what? I've talked about the X-Men movies too, but it's got a lot of pluses and minuses, and it's got a lot going against them. I mean, I feel like they were scrambling from the start to fix things because of that. They started off so crazy, and then they came out with First Class, and then just tried to,
that was the beginning.
They did, yeah,
that was the beginning.
But it suffers from the same things that, these ones here, they rushed everything, so.
Sam, just listen to the May 1st X-Men franchise, where did they go wrong episode. That's all you got to do. Just plug your own shit. It's your
right? Exactly. Yeah, check out my previous talks about X-Men. What went right, what went wrong.
I'm definitely going to have to do that.
Yeah, and and also like, hey, Infinite Crisis talked about that too.
To that. You did. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Well, that I'm gonna have to watch as well. So I'll watch it. Then
I definitely have to watch it for sure.
It's an easy watch too, because it's like all the series, they're all on Netflix right now, so you can just go to just watch those things. It's not like, you watch them and it's like, sometimes you'll be like, oh, but I don't know what happened before this or whatever. But I think that they made it standalone-ish enough that you can watch those without like, yes, sure, you're going to miss a lot and figure out, it's like, oh, who's this guy? Who's that guy? But it's just, the story is so right out of the comics and them bringing their world into that comics that it doesn't really matter, so it's very holistic. So you get a lot more knowing everything, but those 5 episodes together, that's a movie.
Okay. All right. I also want to get, I guess not now, but I definitely want to get your your opinion on the Gotham television show. Whenever we have a chance.
That's a great topic.
That's one that's one y'all could definitely do, because I haven't watched it, but like he has, so y'all could definitely do an episode on that shit. And Nadia, obviously, if you watched it, you could definitely get in on it too. But like
I watched, I don't even know what I watched. Like I watched and then I stopped and then I watched and then I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, Jerome is awesome. And then I forgot about it again.
Yes.
If you do want to get back to something, Gotham really went in a great direction for like, it's because previous to everything that we're talking about here now, Gotham was pretty much the closest to, like, they really got to build those characters. And, like they had a great Bane, actually. That was
really,
it was grounded. I don't know the actor's name, but I know that it's something that was very basically, it was a grounded Bane, but it was also the comic book Bane with the Venom and everything like that. Yeah. So like Gotham did a great job of basically grounding these comic book characters. And like, we're talking about the Riddler, but I love the Gotham Riddler. And they did such a great job of bringing him like the Edward Nygma to the start of where he ended up being the Riddler. Like, so great. Like
he was like Fish fucking person or something, right? Before?
Yes. No, that was Penguin.
That was Penguin. My bad. Yeah. Right. You see
Riddler
how far back like I only watched the first season.
Yeah,
he was a CSI guy.
Yeah, that I remember. They killed his girlfriend or something.
Yes.
That I saw. I gotta know though that they made Barbara like a Harley Quinn. Like, isn't she supposed to marry Gordon?
Dude, I can talk about Gotham a whole episode.
Again, DCEU, like, you know, they could do whatever the fuck they want because they have multiple Earths. That could be a completely different
everybody
Earth.
knew Bruce as a kid. I kind of got annoyed.
I love that though. I love Bruce as a kid.
So
I liked him. The fact that everyone knew him as a kid was annoying.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking about something. I was like, is that the Pattinson Batman that we're getting? Because it could be. Because if he's so young there.
Technically,
I was just wondering.
The last episode of Gotham, they did do in the future, and they did do Batman grown up and everything like he had on the suit and everything like that. Because I think they did 15 years later.
So it could be a Pattinson, or it could be something else altogether.
Because that could be those in between years. And
that's what I'm saying.
They did do, to Nadia's thing, they did end up doing a real Harley. Mm-hmm. She wasn't Harlequin. She was like a different character, but they did do her, and she was like the Joker's girlfriend type thing, and she was crazy. But yeah, Gotham, they were, before all of this, they did a great job of bringing these comic characters and giving them backstories and origin stories within it. Like, and it's like the Joker, amazing. So, but it's one of those things where it's like with a TV show, because you have so many episodes in a season, you have a chance to say like, okay, here's this character here, but next season they're going to become this person, and I'm going to give story all building up to that. Well, in a movie, you only have 2 or 3 hours to do such a thing like that. So it gives them a lot of license to build things correctly.
I guess we know what the next episode is.
Yeah. I guess talk about it, and I'll see if I feel like watching it again.
Yeah, it's definitely it's worth it. So, like, you know, it's like things on Netflix. You know, it's so easy to binge things. You know, and why not binge things?
But it's 23 episodes. Like, if it was if it was like on cable television, it would be 10 episodes. I'd be like, bet.
It's kind of worth it though. For, like, certain shows are worth it.
I feel like I should watch it because it's Batman, and like, as being a Batman fan, I should probably finish watching it. I'm just like,
I just know you're gonna like it. I just know that you're gonna like it. I don't.
Yeah, just like I know that you were gonna like The Witcher and you didn't fucking watch it, so fuck off. There's only 8 episodes.
I know it's less episodes, but I'm trying to get you to watch more.
I already went through this one time with one of my coworkers. She was like, "Watch Supernatural and I watch Game of Thrones." I got to season 5 of Game of Thrones. She still ain't watched season 5 of Supernatural. That's how many, 23 episodes times 5, whatever that comes out to. She still ain't watched that shit.
Supernatural's I mean, I love Supernatural, but like I think I stopped maybe season 8 midway, and they're on like 13 now, and they're 23 each. It's hard. It's hard to devote that much time.
That's too many episodes.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Funny story as far as like you know, crossovers. They actually mentioned Supernatural in Legends.
No fucking way.
Yeah.
So you can even bring them into it? That'll be funny.
They were on the set of filming Supernatural.
Oh, they were on the set that they were actually filming? Yes. Oh, that's funny.
Yes.
That's funny.
They had the card. They didn't have either one of them, but they had the card. They were talking about Supernatural. I'm like, whoa, this is coming into it now. So it's like, it's open season with DC.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
But yeah, I mean, I welcome all of you guys. It's great to get all these different opinions and, you know, like really have that like comic book talk about it. You know, this one little topic got us so excited about so many different things. And it's a you know, in talks thing. It's not even something that we're 100%.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but it's great. And it's great to. I hope that we can like, you know, open the breach and do a lot more. Especially like, you know, we've got Gotham coming up next.
Yeah, because they can do just. I don't want to say it again, but we've been saying it for the whole episode. Like they have so much to really work with. So they can. It doesn't have to be Michael Keaton. It could be a different Batman. It could be.
It has to be Michael Keaton.
It needs to be Michael Keaton. It needs to be. But they just have. Exactly. They just have so much to work with, whether it's villains or heroes. So it's a good look either way.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Eyepokes and Headchokes.
Yes.
Gotham Geek Girl. Everybody like and follow. And I guess we'll talk next time, whether it be about Gotham or whatever else pops into our mind.
that.
So, I hope everybody's prescription is filled, and I guess we'll see you next time.
Peace out.
Later.